Jealous like me. A pile of birthday presents sat neatly on the living room floor. Amir ran his fingers across the glossy wrapping paper, quietly counting the boxes and pulling at the silver bows. 5, 6, 7. Amir! His dad shouted from the kitchen. Come here, please. Just a minute, he replied, before grabbing one of the boxes and quickly shaking it. Amir! With a sigh, Amir dragged himself to the kitchen, where his dad was delicately placing candles on top of his sister's cake. How does it look? He asked with a wide, eager grin. Looks great, Amir mumbled. Still smiling, his dad skipped across the kitchen and ruffled Amir's hair. Cheer up, he chirped. It's Amna's birthday. How could I forget? Amir muttered. While he helped his dad tidy up the kitchen, he could hear the rest of the family gathering in the living room, ready to watch Amna open her gifts. Their excited chatter bothered him. Here, take these plates in, his dad said. Then, when we're all ready, I'll get the cake. Amir grabbed the pile of plates waiting on the counter and followed his dad into the other room. The dishes rattled in his hands as he squeezed past his aunt, cousins, and grandma, who were busy fussing over Amna. He slammed the plates on the coffee table in a clumsy attempt to steal their attention. Careful, dear, his grandma drawled before turning back to his sister. Amir didn't know why, but he was feeling unusually grumpy. A prickly sensation began creeping up his spine as he watched his sister waltz around the room and excitedly show off her gifts. With each chorus of ooh and ah, the prickly feeling grew itchier, tickling him from the inside out. Fidgety and restless, he turned away and crossed his arms with an exaggerated sigh. From the corner of his eye, he could just about make out his dad mouthing, "Stop!" Ugh, Amir grumbled, scowling with such force it almost gave him a headache. Then, just as he was about to stomp off upstairs, something grabbed his attention. It was faint at first, a soft, muffled rustling, but it grew louder and more persistent. He froze, listening intently. The sound was coming from the kitchen. He glanced around the room to see if anyone else had noticed, but they were too distracted by his sister to pay attention to anything else. Intrigued, Amir snuck away and tiptoed toward the kitchen. The closer he got, the louder the shuffling became. His palms grew clammy as he inched closer to the door, his steps careful and deliberate. Suddenly, a wet squelch cut through the rustling, followed by a loud clunk that made him jump. When he finally mustered the courage to step through the door, Amir's eyes widened in shock. The room was a scene of sugary devastation. Chunks of cake were scattered in mushy heaps across the counters, while strawberry frosting ran down the walls in thick, gooey streams. Amir held out a hand to catch the rainbow sprinkles spinning through the air, watching the rest settle into sticky, syrupy pools on the floor. The smell was sickly sweet and overwhelming. Amir blinked, stunned to silence. Then he saw the culprit. A small green creature was crouched on the table, hunched over the ruins of the cake. It greedily nibbled at the spongy remains before furiously licking its lips. It had two sharp horns that jutted upward, and a messy tuft of hair that sprouted from its head. Amir should have been afraid of the creature, but it was wearing a pink party hat that made it look too silly to be scary. The little intruder turned to face Amir and let out a mischievous cackle. Amir watched the frosting drip from its chin as it gleefully chomped on the strawberry slime. Still in shock, he turned back toward the living room and poked his head around the door to make sure no one had noticed him leave. Luckily, everyone was still too busy over-enthusiastically oohing and eyeing at Amna opening her gifts. This time, it was a set of scented pens. He took a deep breath, then closed the door. Careful not to make any sudden moves, he crept closer to the little green monster. "Hey!" he whispered, keeping his voice low. "What are you doing? That's my sister's cake." The creature didn't respond. Instead, it scooped up a chunk of sponge and stuffed it into its mouth, smirking as crumbs tumbled down onto the table. Trying to hide his amusement, Amir raised his hand to cover his face. This only seemed to encourage the monster, who started clapping wildly. "Please don't," Amir whispered. "You'll get me in trouble." The monster shrugged and then carried on feasting. Worried someone might hear, Amir lunged forward and tried to grab the lump of cake from the creature's grasp. But the creature was quicker. With a flick of its hand, it flung the sponge piece across the kitchen, where it splattered against the window with a wet thud. Amir froze, staring at the pink-streaked stain now smeared across the glass. The creature gasped, then rolled onto its back into a fit of spiky laughter. "What are you?" asked Amir, both bewildered and amazed. At that, the monster stopped rolling around and stood up. It playfully raised an eyebrow and grabbed another piece of cake. Instead of eating it, it held it out toward Amir, who carefully took the piece from the monster's green palm. It was sticky and cold in his hands. He glanced at the mess surrounding him, then back at the creature, whose eyes widened in encouragement. It nudged his arm and nodded its head excitedly, urging him to throw it. As he held the lump of cake in his hands, Amir remembered that prickly feeling from before. He looked at the frosting-covered walls and the little intruder reveling in the chaos. He thought it might make him feel better if he threw it. After all, it wasn't fair that Amna got to have all the fun. Amir raised his arm slowly and held it in the air. The monster clapped and giggled, bouncing around in excitement. But, just as he was about to launch the fistful of slop, he hesitated. For a moment, the kitchen was silent, except for the faint hum of voices from the living room. Finally, Amir spoke. "I can't," he sighed, lowering his arm. The monster glared at Amir with the crumpled face of an angry toddler. It huffed and puffed, stamping its feet on the frosting-smeared tabletop. Amir felt embarrassed as he watched it stomp and sulk. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "It's Amna's birthday. We shouldn't spoil it." The monster didn't answer, but it didn't have to. "Oh, I get it," Amir sighed. "You're jealous. Jealous like me." At that moment, he realized he had been a little green monster too. Determined to make things right, Amir grabbed a towel from the countertop and began wiping the frosting off the walls. After scrubbing the floor and picking the sprinkles from his hair, he began to gather the remaining lumps of sponge into something resembling a cake. In the rush, Amir hadn't noticed that the creature's gruff breathing had stopped. He searched the kitchen for the messy intruder, but it was nowhere to be seen. He took a deep breath, relieved the little green monster had finally disappeared. Just then, Amir spotted a candle hidden behind the kettle. He picked it up and reached out to place it on top of what was left of the cake. But, before he could push it in place, he heard the kitchen door swing open. He stopped, arms stretched wide, and looked over toward the crowd of shocked faces staring at him through the door frame. "What happened?" his dad exclaimed. Amir quickly glanced around the room, not sure where to start. Did you do this, Amir? Said Amna, with a shaky voice and watery eyes. Um, w- well, yes, he stuttered, feeling his cheeks flush. I'm really sorry, All for me? Amna squealed. Amir, it's the best birthday cake I've ever seen.